Welcome to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. If you're on a mission to be more frugal with both your time and money, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we talk about topics that help enhance living a frugal lifestyle. The goal is to save time and money where we can so that we can use the rest on what matters most to us. We talk a lot about both time and money management so that we can waste as little as possible on both. We do this while also embracing a progress over perfection mindset. If that sounds good to you, then please stick around for the latest episode right after a few quick words from our sponsor.
Look, Bumble knows you're exhausted by dating. All the must not take yourself too seriously and 6'1" since that matters. And what do I even say other than hey? Well, that's why they're introducing an all-new Bumble with exciting features to make compatibility easier, starting the chat better, and dating safer. They've changed, so you don't have to. Download the new Bumble now.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. So today, I just want to start as usual with a quick update about what's going on with me in my life. So right now, I know you guys, I've mentioned a few times, my daughter is getting ready to graduate and have prom and all that stuff. So kind of sort of related to that, she's also going to be looking for a car. We're going to be helping her look for a car soon because she does have her license, but she doesn't have a car yet. So we've been looking on Facebook Marketplace and just kind of trying to figure out what we're going to be able to get her. So that's always a little bit challenging because you never know if people are always being honest about the cars. And then if you go to a dealership, even for used cars, the price that they say that the car is never winds up really being that price because most of them wind up adding all these different types of extra fees on top of it. So we're working on that now, trying to hopefully find her a decent car for a decent price. She's saved up some money. She needs to save up a little bit more, but we're almost there. So that is going to be something we have to work on with her soon. And then she will be able to drive herself to work and we'll be done with giving rides to the kids. She's the last one that we're still giving rides to. So that'll be nice. As far as what I'm loving lately right now, it's really watching my seedlings grow. Last week I had shared about some of the seeds I had planted, and some of them were zinnia seeds that I had saved from last summer, and they started sprouting like crazy. So I'm really excited because it's not only fun to watch seeds that you planted start to sprout, but it's even better when you saved the seeds yourself. And I know that I have the ability to have a never-ending zinnia garden now year after year by saving these seeds. So this is the second type of seed that I've been successful with. The other seeds that I save every year are from my hyacinth bean vines. I've been growing them over and over again for several years now by saving the seeds each fall. And it just really feels good to have these beautiful plants grow for free each season. Now that I have the hyacinth bean seeds and the zinnia seeds down, I'm going to try to see what else I can add to that because it's really neat to be able to save the seeds yourself and then grow them again next year. So you can just keep adding to the different plants that you have in your yard every year. So I'm really loving that. I'm going to skip reading what I'm reading right now and my favorite meal segment, both of those segments this week, because I feel like I have too much else to talk about and I don't want to make the episode too long. So one thing I wanted to talk about is that this past weekend we had a lot of fun attending two local events on Sunday. And when I first looked at the calendar, I didn't think we could do either one of them because my daughter needed to be dropped off at work right in the middle of the time frames that both of the events were being held. And then I started thinking about how much time we would really need to spend at each event to make it worth going, and decided that we could check out the first event for a little bit, bring my daughter to work, and then check out the other one afterwards. Both of these events were free, so it wasn't like we would be wasting money by going and not staying long enough to make it worth whatever the cost was. So money wasn't really an issue with that. So the first thing that we did was a seafood festival. The event started at 11 a.m. We had to be home by 1:30 to bring my daughter to work, and the festival was about 20 minutes from our home. This festival is held at the beach and it gets really crowded, especially on a nice day, which it was on Sunday. But we decided to get to the event a little bit before 11, get something to eat, walk around a little bit, and then get home in plenty of time to get my daughter to work. So it ended up being really great because we were able to park easily before the crowds had started. And then we didn't have to wait in line to get food. And we were even able to get a seat at the tables that are provided at the event, which are usually pretty much all taken. And it's really difficult to get a place to sit down. So it was actually really nice, and I was glad that we made the effort to just kind of pop in there quickly for a nice early lunch and get to see it and get out of there before it got crowded. And we weren't rushed because we had more than enough time to get home to get my daughter for her shift at work that started at 2. So then the next event was at a was like a historic day at one of our local county parks, and it went until 5 p.m. Like I said, we had to drop off our daughter at 2. So this one was about 40 minutes from our house. But we decided to just go stop in for a quick walk around and see what it was like. And it was so nice to take a walk around the park and see the demonstrations they had going on. And again, it was nice and quiet around the park because most of the people had already left for the day that had got there earlier for when the event started. So again, we didn't feel rushed at either event because we only intended to stay for a short time for something to do. And it didn't feel like we were cramming too much into the day because it wasn't like we rushed from one thing to another. We just kind of went in. We're like, well, we just have a little bit of time, so let's just go check it out, see a little bit, and then come back. And then we had more than plenty of time before my daughter needed to be picked back up. So I wanted to share about this because we had so much fun that day, and I think that sometimes we don't always think about doing things like this if we don't have that much time to spend. I think we kind of think like if we kind of have to be like at the event at like the main time or spend like a significant amount of time there for it to make it worth it. But sometimes even just doing something like that for a short period of time can be really fun, and it kind of breaks up your day even if you do have other things to do to get done where you can't spend a more significant amount of time. So maybe just take a look at your schedule and see what you might be able to squeeze in for some little things you can do for fun, even if you have a lot going on a weekend or during the week or whatever. Just kind of seeing a little bit of fun that you can squeeze in, it really makes a big difference in your day. So it doesn't always have to be like a whole day to do an event. You can very easily sometimes squeeze things in if you just kind of look at your schedule and see where you might be able to do something like that. So we really had so much fun that day. I just wanted to share that because I think it's really important to kind of see where you can squeeze in little bits of fun, especially when you're having a really busy season in your life. You don't want it to only be just work. You want to get in those little bits of fun where you can. So that's that. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about is some food storage tips. So the way that we store our food is really important because it really does help reduce food waste by making sure we use up what we have. And for that same reason, it helps us save money because when we use up the food that we have, it reduces the amount of food that we have to purchase each week. So if you're trying to save money on food, which most of us usually are, make sure you're doing everything you can to have your food stored in a way that you use up things that are going to go bad and that you're not repurchasing items because you didn't see that you already had certain things on hand. So the first tip about food storage is to kind of categorize your food and group similar items together, like canned goods, snacks, baking supplies. That makes it easier to find what you need and prevent duplicates. When you do your grocery shopping, you want to be able to look around to see what you already have so that you don't buy things again. And when you have things kind of categorized together, it makes it easier to see what you have on hand when you're kind of putting your grocery list together. And you also want to try to store food that's used more frequently in more convenient spaces and ingredients that you use less often in less convenient locations. If you only bake around the holidays, you don't need to have those types of ingredients easily accessible as you would want to have the things that you use on a regular basis. So kind of consider that when you're figuring out where to put different ingredients in your pantry or freezer. Well, you wouldn't really keep stuff in your freezer long term, but your pantry mostly, I guess, is kind of where you want to try to group things and think about the convenience of the location to keep things that you use more often in an easier to access place. Labeling items too is really important. You want to be able to label things so that you can quickly identify what you have in a container or a bag. You can use a maker, or you can just simply write on masking tape with a marker, or you can write directly on the food storage bag, like I do if you're using a food storage bag to store stuff. But this is especially important when you put something in the freezer. Even things that seem like you'd be able to easily identify, they become unrecognizable in the freezer often. Like, is that frozen meatballs, or is that leftover sauce, or is that chili, or who knows what it is, because it just, when it becomes frozen, it's really hard to tell. Even different meats sometimes seem like, like you might think bone-in chicken thighs are chicken breast, or who knows. It's difficult to tell when you put things in a separate bag before you freeze them. So it's really important to label them in some way, because it's very hard, and you want to be able to know what you're taking out, because otherwise you'll probably tend not to take something out to use it if you're not 100% sure what it is.
This episode is brought to you by La Quinta by Wyndham. Your work can take you all over the place, like Texas. You've never been, but it's going to be great because you're staying at La Quinta by Wyndham. Their free Bright Side breakfast will give you energy for the day ahead. And after, you can unwind using their free high-speed Wi-Fi. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you shine. Book your stay today at lq.com.
And then another tip is definitely to communicate about leftovers. I don't know how many times I've had to throw things out because no one realized that they were in the fridge. I've had family members say, I would have eaten that, but I didn't know it was there. So try to find some method to communicate to your family about leftovers or other perishable food items that need to be eaten. Often they'll be happy to eat them if they're aware that they are available. So as I've mentioned before, I have this dry erase board on my fridge that I can write messages to the family about things that are in the fridge that need to be eaten. And I've also put sticky notes on certain containers to draw attention to those items when people are opening the fridge, because just like everything, at times writing on the whiteboard just kind of becomes part of the background and doesn't get noticed. So if I really want someone to eat something, I may like kind of put it towards the front of the fridge and put like a note on it that says like, leftover shrimp scampi or whatever it might be, just to kind of draw attention to those items so that they get eaten or people realize that they're there. And then, of course, rotating your food. When you buy new groceries, you always want to move the older items to the front so that you use them up first. And same thing when you put things in the freezer. It can be easy to just throw in items on top of the old ones, but making sure that you bring the older items to the front will prevent freezer burn. And you don't want to have to throw things out just because you simply didn't take the time to bring them to the front and use them up first before they sat in the freezer for too long. And it's also important to keep your fridge organized. Use clear bins to group similar items together and store items that you use frequently at eye level so that people can see that you have them, or just so that they're easy to access. You can also try to keep things towards the front of the refrigerator, like I was saying before, just so that they get seen. Because sometimes you shove things to the back of the fridge and they seem to never be found again until they have to be thrown out. So kind of keeping your fridge organized, or even just kind of reorganizing it every few days if you notice things kind of start to get shoved to the back, can be really helpful in having things getting used up. And then using baskets, bins, or bags to store snacks, produce, or other small items, that can really be helpful, because sometimes when you have things that are kind of not consolidated, they can just kind of, again, get pushed to the back, not be seen, get kind of wind up like under something else. So if you can kind of consolidate things like a snack bin or, produce in your fridge, things like that, it can really kind of help with keeping things neat and organized, and then also so that people can see what is available. The one thing that I learned that has made the hugest impact for me was using reusable grocery bags to organize my chest freezer. If you have a chest freezer and you don't have a organization method for it right now, you know how things can just pile up in there, and the stuff at the bottom is like really hard to get to and sometimes really hard to find, and that can definitely lead to things getting freezer burn and needing to be thrown out. And it also leads to purchasing more things that we already have because we just can't see them. So I found this tip to store like items in freezer bags in my chest freezer, and it has made the hugest difference. It's like my favorite tip I ever learned about food storage, because I have like one bag for chicken, one bag for like ground beef, another bag for things like steak or pork chops or whatever. And then I have another bag for just like random frozen items. Like, I don't know, maybe like if we got like orange chicken from Trader Joe's or whatever, just kind of random frozen items that I'm putting down in that chest freezer. Since everything's in bags, I can so easily pull the bags out, put them aside real quick, get what I need, and put the other bags back in when I'm done. And because everything's consolidated in bags, I can see exactly what I have, and I'm never purchasing things that I already have sitting in the freezer. So that has really helped me so much. So if you do have a chest freezer and you struggle with that, I would definitely um, try out that tip and see if that might help you. Okay, so we've covered managing your time. We've got a time management, we've got a frugal life management with the food storage, and then we have one more thing, which is kind of time management again, that I wanted to talk about today, which is this Pinterest article that I saw that I thought had some good tips for habits that we can really work on to kind of keep our homes neater. So I think that it may have been titled better to refer to neatness, because the article is referred to, the title of the article is 9 Habits of People Who Always Have a Clean Home. But I think that the habits that the article discusses is more about keeping your home neat. So I was like, well, I think this should be 9 habits of people who always have a neat or organized home. But then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, in order to have a clean home, you kind of need to have a somewhat neat and organized home because it makes it that much easier to clean. So maybe that's where they were going with that. But I thought that they had some good tips here, just some things to think about when we're trying to think about like what habits we can work on. So this article, like I said, it was on Pinterest. It's called 9 Habits of People Who Always Have a Clean Home, and the website that it's on is called everythingabode.com. So the first habit that they talk about is sorry, hold on, I gotta get there. The first topic that they talk about is the first habit is people that have an organized or a clean home have less. People with clean houses don't tend to buy more than they need. And that's definitely, I definitely agree with that one. I'm not saying that I'm anywhere near perfect in that area. It's definitely a habit that I could work on. But I'm sure, as you all know, areas that have less things are much easier to keep clean. So, like, for example, I've mentioned before, I struggle with our upstairs bathroom because my daughters have all of their stuff in there. And there's so much products between hair stuff and makeup stuff and styling tools, and it makes it very difficult for me to keep that bathroom looking nice. And it's very difficult to clean it. I still do clean it, but it makes it a challenge because I don't just have to go in there and clean it like I would if there was less items in there. I first have to take all the stuff out, put it out in the hallway, go in there and clean it, put it all back. And it's just a good example of having more stuff makes it more of a challenge. If there was less items in there, it'd be much easier to just go into the bathroom and clean it real quick. So that's the first habit that they have. The next one is they clean as they cook. So I definitely agree with this one too. I definitely try to clean as I cook, and it doesn't necessarily just mean to clean up as you're cooking. That is definitely true too. Like as you can, if you use like a cutting board or a big bowl or whatever that you use in the food prep and you're waiting for some time for food to cook, definitely clean that. But I also do other things too, sometimes mostly in the kitchen, but also in other areas that are kind of close to the kitchen if I have time while I'm waiting for something to bake or waiting for water to boil. Even if it's just taking a wet rag and quite quickly wiping down the counters, or if it's putting a bowl in the microwave for a few minutes to steam your microwave and wiping that down, or looking in the fridge and throwing out a few things. It's finding that time while you're cooking where you have those little gaps in between and doing a few other cleaning tasks instead of just kind of maybe scrolling on your phone or whatever else you might wind up doing while you're just waiting for those during those in between times. The next tip is, or the next habit is, it says they embrace clear surfaces to have a clear mind. So this is definitely true too, but I think that's kind of the same. It's very similar to having less stuff. If you're going to have clear surfaces, you need to have less stuff. So it really just goes back to that, not having more than you need, not buying those excess things. They wind up costing us a lot of money, and they wind up just making our lives a little bit more difficult because it's more that we have to maintain. It makes for less clear surfaces, and when you have less clear surfaces, it makes it more difficult to clean. And it doesn't mean that you can't clean, or that you're not clean, but it takes more time because you have to move all that stuff so that you can clean. So by having less things, and by kind of really trying to have more clear surfaces, it will make your home that much easier to clean. So that's definitely a good habit to work on. The next one they have is that they clean out their fridge when they see something out of order. So I definitely could work on this more. I usually wind up getting to a point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I really have to organize this fridge. If you kind of try to be more mindful and notice right away if something needs to get thrown out, or if something is like in the wrong spot, or things are just kind of getting like unorganized in there so people wouldn't see necessarily what food you have, that can kind of, cover two areas. It can cover similar to what we talked about before, where people are going to be more likely to eat the food, but it also helps keep your fridge not kind of in a I'm trying to think like what the word is. You want it to stay neat and organized, because then it's just that much easier to clean. And the less you have in there that should be used up, or maybe repackaged, or whatever has to happen, it just makes it that much easier. It makes it easier to see if something's spilled, and you can wipe it up so that you don't have a harder time cleaning the fridge when it comes to that. So really just kind of working on getting things organized in your fridge as soon as you see something is kind of, out of order. You can kind of tell when your fridge has that like really nice organized look, and when it kind of starts to get a little bit out of whack. Okay, so another habit is to set aside a tidying day. So I don't specifically do a tidying day, but I do think it's a good idea. I think it's better to just do a quick tidying session at the end of every day. And it's funny because when you read the article, that's what it actually says, even though it says a tidying day. But I think it's a tidying time each day, just to kind of look around and see what you can pick up quickly, because often it only takes like a very short amount of time to make a significant impact in an area by cleaning up quickly, just kind of looking around, seeing what you can put away, and just kind of getting things put back in their place. Sometimes we could look around and things might just feel a little bit overwhelming, like there's too much to clean up. But once we actually just start picking things up, it's pretty amazing how much of an impact you can make in a room in a short period of time. So that's definitely a good one to practice, improving that habit. Maybe even if you just set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the day, or after cooking a meal, or before you start a meal, just to do like a quick tidy up. That definitely makes a big impact. And again, the neater the home is, the easier it is to keep it clean. The next one that they talk about is that they throw away things immediately. And this is definitely a good one to work on. Sometimes we can be tempted to just kind of put things aside. But if you have something that can be thrown out or picked up, or a garbage that needs to be changed, or if you see something that you don't use anymore, doesn't necessarily only mean tossing things out as far as trash, because I think most of us are pretty good with that. But they also talk about things that you don't need. Like if you pull out that pair of jeans and you're like, oh my gosh, these don't fit me anymore, or they're just so uncomfortable, instead of folding them up and putting them back, and get rid of them immediately. If you go to use a knife and you're like, oh my gosh, this knife is just in such bad shape, it doesn't really work anymore, but you stick it back in the drawer. No, don't stick it back in the drawer. Get rid of it right then. As soon as you realize you have something that's no longer useful to you, get rid of it. That helps, again, keep you having less stuff that keep you from having more stuff than you actually need and use. And then that makes it that much easier to keep your home clean. So that's that one. The next one is that they keep things organized. So if you struggle to find things because of clutter, try to get rid of things and then reorganize. It doesn't have to be all at once. Focus on the area that you're really struggling with. If you find there's a certain area that drives you crazy, that you always have trouble finding a certain thing, maybe it's kitchen tools. You can't remember where the potato peeler is, or where you were keeping a certain measuring cup, or whatever. If there's one particular area that you find is always a challenge, then work on just organizing that. You can always expand out on other areas, but kind of sticking to what is most challenging to you is what you want to organize first, because that's going to make your life that much easier. And then it helps you keep things clean in your home, because you're not wasting time just kind of trying to find things. You can keep things organized, and then by keeping things organized, it goes back to keeping your counters clear, because when things are used, you have a home to put them back to. So that's definitely another good habit. And then the last one, I think I might have skipped one, but the last one that they have on this article is setting aside a laundry day to stay on schedule. So this works for a lot of people. I prefer to do laundry just on a regular basis throughout the week and not just have a certain laundry day, but some people definitely think a laundry day works better for them. So you kind of just have to get a feel for what works best for you. Like I know if you ever listen to A Slob Comes Clean, she definitely thinks having a laundry day is best for her, and she recommends having a laundry day. I just kind of try to do laundry pretty much like just always do laundry if I have laundry to do. It's kind of just part of like the daily routine. If there's laundry to throw in, I'll throw it in. Doesn't mean I don't get behind. Sometimes I'll look at the hamper and I'm like, oh, I really need to get laundry done. But I prefer to do it when I need to do it rather than just have like a specific day to do laundry. But either way, whatever works for you, it's more about having a routine that helps you keep up on laundry, because keeping up on laundry helps keep things neat. It keeps your room neater, which makes it easier to keep your room clean. It also frees up the laundry room for if other people in your house have to do laundry. Like because I'm never in a major rush to have to usually get laundry done, it's okay if one of my kids winds up throwing laundry in, putting laundry into the wash when I maybe was gonna do it, because it's not like urgent, so I could do it whenever. So laundry definitely can kind of make you feel on top of things. Like if your laundry is done and you're not like always feeling behind on laundry, that allows you more time to do other cleaning that you need to do and not kind of always have that nagging feeling in the back of your mind that you have this laundry that's got to get done. So that is all I have to talk about today. I hope that it wasn't kind of too random with 3 different kind of major topic areas, but I felt like these were all kind of things that I've been currently thinking about, so I wanted to just share those. And I do like sharing these Pinterest articles because I think they have a lot of good tips in them. So if you like that part of the podcast, I'd like to know, because obviously you guys can go on Pinterest too and look up the articles, but I try, and when I see one that I think I'd like to share with you, I've just been kind of making a note and tagging them so that I could talk to you guys about them, because I do see a lot of good ideas for habits and frugal living ideas and time management and all those types of things that I like to talk about. So it kind of makes sense to me to share those with you when I see them. So that's it for today. I thank you so much for listening, and I will see you back here next week. So thank you for checking in for this podcast episode. And don't forget, you can always email me with any questions or suggestions at lolasfrugallife@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Lola's Frugal Life. And you can find a blog post for most of my episodes and definitely all of my meal plan episodes at lolasfrugallife.com. You can also join our private listeners group at facebook.com/groups/lolasfrugallife. And if you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen from. And I would love it if you would screenshot the show and tag me on Instagram so I could see you're listening. Also, if you can please take a couple of seconds to rate and review the podcast. Those ratings and reviews are what help the show come up better in search results so that other people can find this podcast. So that will really help me in growing my audience. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have an awesome day.